Ciao my friends, welcome to my kitchen. This is where I teach you easy recipes for everyday cooking. And today I'm going to teach you 3 different recipes on how you can repurpose your chicken. One of the things I think I'm really good at is repurposing my leftovers because I like them to be different. I don't want them to be boring leftovers. So I hope I can teach you some new ways on how you can repurpose your chicken leftovers. Pronto? Allora andiamo a cucinare. For this recipe, I call it my chicken roll-ups. I love roll-ups. I actually do a lot of leftovers in roll-ups and they're great. So I'm gonna make a roux to begin with. So to start, we've got butter, and we usually do equal parts of butter. So 4 tablespoons of butter, and I just wanna melt this. Okay, now that our butter's melted, I'm gonna add equal parts of flour, and just add that flour and just stir it because we want to cook the flour so it doesn't have a floury kind of a taste. Give that about a minute. Now I'm gonna add a couple cloves of garlic, and I'm gonna add 2 cups of milk. Add it slowly. I just add a little bit at a time and stir it, wait for it to get thick, and then I add a little bit more. And this will avoid any lumps. Okay, so now we can see it's boiling and it's really nice and thick. And so now we're gonna take it off the heat. I'm gonna add some Parmesan cheese. We'll stir that in. And then I'm gonna add some mascarpone cheese. Nice and cheesy. And then don't forget to season some salt and pepper, and we're gonna add the juice of 1 lemon. Then we wanna take our chicken and we just wanna pull it apart. You can do this with 2 forks, with your fingers, however you wanna do it is fine. And then we wanna add just enough sauce to coat our chicken. And we wanna also add about a tablespoon of fresh chopped parsley. When it comes to cooking my lasagna noodles, a quick way that I like to do it is I just put the noodles that I need to use in a pan that the noodle will fit, and I just add some boiling hot water, just enough to cover it. And I let this sit for probably about 10 or 15 minutes, and that will actually make the noodles soft enough that I can manipulate them, roll them, whatever it is that I need to do without them having break up. So I'm just gonna let that sit, and when I'm ready to use it, I will dry my noodles and I will use them for the roll-ups. So before we get started, I'm gonna put just a little bit of sauce on the bottom of my pan, just an even coat. Now I'm going to take my chicken mixture and I'm just going to add the chicken all the way along the noodles. Now I like to lay out all my noodles so that I take all the chicken and I use it up evenly amongst the noodles. I don't have too much left at the end or not enough. And as you can see, all my noodles did not cook perfectly, which I'm kind of glad that that happened, because if this happens to you, I can kind of show you what to do and you don't have to worry. It happens sometimes. So now you want to leave a little bit at the edge here because this is where we're going to close at the seam, and you want to roll them as best you can. Try to keep most of the filling in, and then seam side down, we want to place it in our baking dish. And now we're going to spoon the bechamel sauce all over each one of these. I am going to cover them in foil, and I'm going to spray some nonstick spray on the foil so that the cheese doesn't stick to it. And I will stick that in the oven and show you how to serve it. So to serve, we just want to take our roll, place it on a plate. I like to add a little bit of fresh parsley, and it is a new meal. So I'm going to show you how to make some ricotta dumplings, because this particular recipe we're going to use in another 2 recipes. So to start, we've got some flour. We're going to add some Parmesan cheese, and then we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, and then a teaspoon and a half of salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And we just want to whisk all that together so all the ingredients get evenly incorporated with the spices. Now for our wet ingredients, we have some ricotta cheese. I'm gonna add an egg to that. I'm also gonna add a tablespoon of parsley. And we just want to get all this well incorporated. And then now we can add our dry ingredients. And we just want to keep mixing until it all comes together. Okay, so once it all comes together like this, we just want to set it aside until we're ready to use it. When it comes to roasting a chicken, what I usually do if I'm roasting or whether I'm buying the rotisserie from the grocery store, I usually get 2. One for that night's dinner, and then I always try to make some leftovers. So what I like to do, once you bring it home, it's really important that you separate the meat from the bones when the chicken is warm. If you wait to do it the next day, it's a little bit harder. So I do separate it when I come home. I'll put my meat in one bowl, and then I will put the bones in a bag if I'm not ready to use them right away, and I'll put them in the freezer until I am ready to use. The other thing I do is, as I'm cutting up vegetables, here's the scrap, the ends of the carrots, the onions, whatever vegetable scraps I have. I also save those. I'll put them in the freezer until I'm ready to use them. And what I do with this is I will make stock. Stock is very simple to make. So all you have to do is get your chicken bones and skins, place them in a pot, and then your scraps, just go ahead and add your scraps to it. It's gonna give a lot of flavor to the soup. And then you just wanna add enough water to cover. Then all you have to do is just cover it and let it cook slow for probably an hour, and you will see all that flavoring come out. Now, you can also do bone broth. Bone broth is a little bit different. You want to cook it for about 20 hours. It's a great thing to do in a crock pot, or if you're an Instapot lover, you can do it in an Instapot for less time, but you want to add like a tablespoon of vinegar, because that's going to extract all the minerals that's in the bones, which is what gives you that bone broth. But we're just going to let this sit and make our chicken broth, and we'll use it in a later recipe. I didn't want to do basic, boring chicken soup. I think we all know how to do that, but in case you don't, I'm going to give you some tips on a chicken soup. But this is chicken soup with ricotta dumplings. So this is perfect. Not only am I using my leftover chicken, but I'm using some ricotta dumpling mixture that I have left over as well. So again, we start with a sofrito, which is the onions, garlic, celery, and carrots. We just want to heat that up. I'm now going to throw in my shredded chicken. Earlier I talked about how to save the bone broth and the vegetable scraps, and you can see we have this beautiful broth now. And now I'm just going to strain the rest of it in here for those things that I didn't catch with my tongs. And you can see we have a beautiful broth. Now we can take this broth and add it to our soup. Once the broth is boiling, we can now add our ricotta dumplings, and I like to do with this ice cream scoop. And trick, so that it doesn't stick, is if you put your scoop in the hot broth so it gets nice and warm, you can then get a nice scoop and then it easily falls in. And just drop it in. Don't worry about stirring or anything. And after you do a couple, wet your scoop again. And what will happen is that these will sink, if there's room for them to sink, and then they will rise to the top. They really don't take that long to cook. So to serve, we just want to scoop our soup in our bowl, grab some of those dumplings, put on top, and then if you know me, I love squirt a little lemon juice and just add a little bit of parsley for freshness. And there you have a beautiful chicken soup with ricotta dumplings. So our next recipe is chicken and dumplings. So we are starting with a roux, again, equal parts of flour and butter. And now I'm gonna add broth to this. So I've got about 3 cups of broth. Just want to add a little bit and stir. It'll start to thicken up. And then you just want to keep stirring so you don't get the lumps. And unlike the last one where we added milk, which was a bechamel, we're adding broth, which actually is a velouté, one of the 5 mother sauces. So while our sauce thickens up, we're going to add the ingredients to our dish. And I've just got some raw mushrooms. I know sometimes people cook them before they add, but you know what, I figure they're going to be cooking in here anyway, so I'm just going to cut them up and add them raw. So I'm looking for about a cup and a half. Again, the ingredients to this is really not that important. It's more or less, you know, just using up your leftovers. All right, and to that we're going to add our sofrito, which is the mixture of onions, carrots, and celery. Again, no real rocket science to this. It's generally 1 onion for 2 cups of carrots and 2 cups of celery and a couple cloves of garlic. If you were cooking this, you could cook the mushrooms as well, but because I had a batch cooked up ahead of time, the mushrooms are pretty delicate, so they don't need to be cooked, whereas this I would definitely cook. So we'll just add that to this. We're going to add about a cup of frozen peas, and then we've got our chicken, and we want to again shred that up. So now we just want to give this a nice toss to evenly coat everything. Our sauce is boiling, so it's perfect. It is a little bit thinner, but that's okay because we're going to add some dumplings, and so we want the dumplings to absorb some of this moisture, so we don't want it to be too dry. So now we're just going to pour it all into our baking dish, and then using a spoon, we just want to add our dumplings, just spread out all over evenly. All right, so now that we have our dumplings evenly spread out, we are gonna bake this at 350 degrees until it's all nice and bubbly all around the edges. And I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. Chicken and dumplings are done. It smells so good. You can hear that nice little crust that our dumplings made. And so now you just want to spoon it out into your bowl, and it's got all this nice juice that your dumplings are going to just absorb as you eat them. This is like really good. This is a perfect winter comfort food. So I hope you've enjoyed these 3 different recipes on how you can repurpose your leftovers. I hope you'll give this one a try. Again, don't be consumed with the ingredient amounts and stuff. It's just how to repurpose it and bring it to life with other different flavors. So I'd love to hear the comments below on if you were able to try some of this stuff and what you did for your repurposing of chicken. And until next time, ciao, ci vediamo dopo.